What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're talking about another interesting deck, I'll say, that's kind of been floating around a little bit. It's definitely rogue, if anything, but I just wanted to talk about this deck today because it really is an interesting deck, in my opinion, and I think it's on the come up. It just is like so close. So today we're talking about Infinitrack Machina. It's a really fun, cool deck that takes advantage of like the best things that Infinitrack has to offer, as well as Machina, and the fact that, like, strangely enough, like a lot of cards just have a lot of machine cards just like work with Earth machines. They have effects like this guy. He just searches any Earth machine monster. Trying to think, like Brutal Dozer tributes any Earth machine monster, right? And so there's just like weird synergies like that all over the place. Gearbox searches any Earth machine monster. That just like random, just like a bunch of different Earth machine cards work together, even though they're from different decks. So it's a really cool deck. I love the idea of it. You're not doing anything crazy. You're not setting up like an insane unbeatable board or anything like that. What you're setting up is like a couple disruptions, whatever you can, but then you try and use the Machina cards and to eventually set up like almost like a never-ending resource pool, where just like your Machina cards like rotate into more and more cards for you, as well as your Infinitracks, which recur and get you good value, and just you kind of just start rotating resources. Funny enough, machines with like some rank 10 cards, this deck's more than anything like a grindy deck, which is weird, but still really cool nonetheless. So some of the things that make this deck so interesting is a lot of the synergies, like we talked about, right? But you have, you just have these weird combinations, and they all happen to work out. You also have some insane spell cards. I mean, seriously, like this card is just like an actual, like, kind of insane search card. This card is... Well, okay, this card is also a pretty insane search card. This card's insane. I mean, this card's just here because whenever you're going second or in a grind game and your board gets cleared, this card, if it resolves, just says, like, we're going to win the duel. You just are. And even destroying it when it's set or sending it to the grave with like Anger Knuckle actually still allows this card to have value, even when you don't have that situation present to get it to resolve normally, which is really cool. And then you just have like defensive cards. You have like Forbidden Droplets, you have the Dynamiscus, you have the Trap Trick, right, to search these out, whichever one you want, right? A little bit of utility there. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a really interesting deck. The way this deck feels to me, and I think this is a very specific category that not a lot of decks actually end up in, but it's one of those decks where you read and you're like, wow, that's a good Earth Machine card. And then, like this guy, when he came in, I was like, wow, that's like actually just a pretty good card. It takes your normal summon, but man, it sure does search any Earth Machine in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! You read Harvester and you're like, okay, that's a Rhoda or a Stratos, I guess. Brutal Dozer, wow, that's a pretty great extender. And you just go through like all of it and you're just like, wow, good card. Oh, the new Ancient Gear Link only takes 2 Earth Machines. Wow, great. Anger Knuckle, 2 machines, cool. Right? And then you're searching cards like Ancient Gear Box, which search out specific cards in your deck. I believe it only searches, what does it search? Searches this guy, your Anchor Drill, and then what's it? I thought there was one. Oh, that's right, the Trencher as extender. Oh, and the Tunneler. So a couple different targets there, but still, it's just like a free search, and yeah, I mean, you're not going to be mad about it. Not only that, but you also have a ton of utility in the Astro deck as well, with all these Exceed monsters that you can make, because the Infinitracks actually modulate the levels of each other to kind of get you into certain Exceeds, which is also very strong. You have stuff like River Stormer, by the way, searches any Earth Machine or dumps any Earth Machine from deck to grave. That's kind of crazy. You have Lieb and Gustav Max. Like, obviously, these are insane. Lieb, if it resolves in the battle phase, just like wins. Gustav Max, burn for 2,000. Great. Super Dora is really cool because of cards like your Dare Crane. Because when it's detached from an Exceed monster as material to activate that monster's effect, it actually just pops a card. So because Dora is a quick effect, you can use this to make Dora, and then Dora just becomes like a Dryden, because you just like detached to make itself like unaffected by card effects, which means Dora is really annoying to get off the field. and then Derek Rain also gets you a pop. So it's disruption while also getting like a 1-turn towers, which is pretty strong actually. Then you have other utility cards like Enter Blathnir, just banishing any one thing you want. Calamities. This deck can make calamities, and it won't come up all the time, but when it does, I mean, it's calamities, right? Earth Slicer. This card is just mass removal. Very good. Zeus, same thing. By the way, with some of these interesting like interactions, I believe you can hard make Zeus with like Harvester, and I think there's a level 10. Can't remember what level 10. I think Citadel. I think if you have like Citadel plus Harvester, Harvester can like... Yeah, I think you can make Harvester like a level 12, which is pretty cool. Which is cool, and then you can overlay for Zeus, which is pretty crazy. Most of the time you're probably just making it the normal way, but still cool to have. And then you have stuff like Ding, like another card. You can make rank 8s in this deck. That's another non-targeting, non-destruction removal, so we'll take that, and it protects our board. So yeah, and there's really a handful of other cards too, and I went through the list, and there were a couple other ones. There's nothing too crazy right now I want to go through, because this is generally where the deck has landed for most people who play it. You also have something like Machina Unclasped Bear. This is another cool Machina card. It like summons itself if it's added to hand, which is pretty cool, but locks you into machines. And then if it's normal summoned or special summoned, you can just like Foolish Burial any Machina monster from deck to grave. Not half bad. They want to be in grave anyway, so that's another thing that's pretty cool. We'll see if it's actually worth it in the deck, but yeah, I mean, this deck fits so perfectly in that category of, you look at this deck, it has so many cool cards, so many cool interactions, and because it's one of those decks that kind of almost feels like zombies or plants, where they just have a big pool of like generic good stuff, you feel like the groundwork's already there. And it's made up of multiple archetypes, which is also very strong, because that means if we get future Machina support, it's support for this. If we get future Infinitrack support, it's support for this. If we get future Ancient Gear support, and needs to be a little more generic and not specifically Ancient Gear related, it could be support for this. Trains, if they get support for this. The list goes on, and it feels like eventually this deck's just going to get the card or a couple cards for one of these archetypes, and it's going to blow this deck wide open. It already does a lot of cool things. It just needs that one little extra bump to just like force it right into the metagame, because right now it's kind of just in that rogue category, that everything else category. That's a decent deck. It can catch you off guard. It can take a meta deck here and there, but it's not going to overall consistently achieve that versus the meta. And until it gets that nice little buff, I don't think we should expect it to really hit its stride like that. But I don't know. I just want to talk about this deck. It's a really, really cool, fun deck. I don't think it's that budget, unfortunately. Obviously, like the Forbidden Droplets, but there are other ways to supplement this. But I believe some of the Infinitrack cards are a little bit expensive. Don't take my word for it, though. I don't know off the top of my head, market watch wise, like what's going on with that. But there's just so much. Oh, I didn't even have the extra deck on screen because it doesn't fit. Sorry about that, but we talked about everything. Yeah, I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. This is just an off-the-cuff video. We've been really slow on news lately, and I've been waiting on a ton of cards to come in the mail so I can finish building a couple different decks. But I want to do this video talking to you guys about this deck. It's just a really interesting deck to me. I want to hear your thoughts on it down below. Like, where do you think this deck ranks? What do you think it needs to do better to make that leap up into at least like tier 2 category? I'm not saying what's going to get this deck to tier 1, because it's hard to say that for any deck. Tier 1, I'm just trying to say what can get it into like that relevant category of like, oh shit, even if you play meta, you better know what this deck does, because it might clap your cheeks if you sleeping on it. So don't sleep on decks. Just don't sleep on decks in general, guys. I mean, that's just advice. That's just general good advice. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this deck, Infinitrack Machina. This is just a generic build, by the way, that I put together that's based off of the couple lists I had seen that had done better in some of these online tournaments. I mean, they're not topping like the big tournaments that I've seen from online, but they're placing pretty well in some of the smaller ones as a rogue deck, which is pretty cool. So yeah. That's going to do it for me here, guys. I'm rambling way too much. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more discussion videos like this one in the future. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.